What's up, guys? People were asking for a Hinderer review. Not really going to do a review. I'm just going to do the same old thing I've been doing recently where I just talk. Whatever comes to mind, comes to mind. Do want to show this. The Chris Reeve leather pouches are really nice. I don't know about you guys. I'm into carrying stuff, and when it develops a patina, I really like it. I don't know why, what causes me to do that, but I wanted to get one of these little leather pouches, stick my Sebenza in it, and carry it in my pocket. One reason is because it allows me to carry an extra knife. I can have this in the pocket and then have a knife clipped to that same pocket. But leather develops a nice patina. I mean, I'm sure you guys have a wallet that has a nice patina on it, and it just feels like it's yours. You know, you have a connection to it. I want to do that with this. So I'm going to show you guys this periodically to kind of have a record of how it's wearing in. I have it... I have the flat side, the non-locking side facing out on the think twice, cut once, and that's the thumb stud, so I have it pivot down so it's easy to draw out. Really like it, and I can set it out on a table, not worry about scratching the titanium, setting it on a table, concrete table or something, and it looks like a pair of eyeglasses and not a knife, so that's cool. I live in Alabama, though, it doesn't really matter. I'll literally sit there and flick a military out in the middle of class at school, so... Not like high school or anything. I'm in college, but you know what I mean. A lot of you guys may think I'm rich because I have 3 Hinderers sitting here, which could not be farther from the truth. I did a lot of buying and selling and a lot of trading to get these 3. And my collection dropped probably about 50% just to get these 3 knives. Traded away my Striders and a bunch of other knives, honestly. I have no Striders anymore. Do miss them. Want the ones with the new lockup, but these are honestly, in my opinion, I like these a lot better than Striders. So yeah, I'm definitely not rich. I just did a lot of bartering and trading and condensed my collection down. I shrunk a bunch of lesser knives into 3 higher end knives pretty much. So right here I have a Gen 4 with a black scale, blue standoffs. This is the one I carry. I have here a Gen 3, which is an exact copy of this knife. It just has the silver standoffs, which I have the silver standoffs for that. But this is the Gen 3. Only difference between the Gen 4 and the Gen 3 really is the blade stop on the Gen 4 is back here. The blade stop on the Gen 3, when it's in the closed position, is right here in the titanium. So you eliminated that little piece right there. And one big difference between the Gen 3 and the Gen 4 is the detent. Gen 4 has a very positive, well, I'm going to get to that later. This Gen 4 has a very positive detent. You apply just a little bit of pressure and the blade flies out. It's honestly faster than my ZT, and it doesn't have a KVT system. It's also a lot smoother, which is incredible, but the blade absolutely just rockets out of there on the Gen 4. This Gen 4 at least. The Gen 3 has pretty much no detent whatsoever. You see, I'm giving it just a light toss and the blade's coming out. To get the blade to fly out, you have to have a much stronger index finger flick, or you have to give it kind of a little wrist action. That's the Gen 3 detent. Oddly enough, this is the Gen 4 as well. As you can see, no blade stop here. The blade stop is back here. This has 0 detent. No detent whatsoever. It's just like the Gen 3 as far as the detent goes. You have to give this a nice little wrist flick. Which do I prefer? I don't really know. At first, I preferred the Gen 3 because it just seems smoother to me to just give it a light little flick, light little wrist flick. And then it just comes out. Wow, my camera needs to, I need to do something with a white balance. This orange in real life is so much more vibrant. It's like a neon orange. It looks washed out and kind of desaturated on the camera. I don't know why that is. The colors are kind of off on this thing. I need to go in the settings and mess with that. But this orange is incredibly vibrant in real life. It just doesn't come through on the camera. I wish it did, but it doesn't. It is, you really just have to see it to believe it. It's like extremely vibrant. Anyway, all three of these are Spantos. All three have pretty early lockup. The one I use and carry has the latest lockup out of all of these, which is about 50%, and you can push it in further. Doesn't bug me. It still has literally no lock movement at all. But the other two I have extremely early lockup, which I love. I don't know why. I'm just really a fan of early lockup. Really like the way it looks, and it gives you a lot of room for wear. So that's the Gen 3 lockup. This is the Gen 4 lockup. Just about the same thing on those two. Absolutely no lock movement whatsoever. You literally can't get it to move. Also, another weird thing, the thumb studs on this new Gen 4 are rounded as opposed to the other Gen 4 I have being squared off, as you can see. Strange little differences. Some of you guys may notice this Hinderer I have in my hand. It's the one that Gavco won at the East Coast Custom Knife Show. I bought it off of him. He gave me a pretty good deal. He got a really good deal, but I got it a little bit cheaper than they go for on the streets, just a little bit, and he got to make a pretty good profit off of it. Gavco's a really good guy. He honestly did not want to sell me this knife because he wanted to sell it to somebody he doesn't know so he wouldn't feel bad making them pay what you should pay for a Hinderer. But I told him, honestly, you're doing me a favor by letting me get it because I want it, you know. I wasn't expecting him to let me turn around and buy it for what he had to buy it for at the show. It's a privilege to get drawn by Rick, and it's a privilege to get to buy it at the low cost. I think it's like $385. But no, he wasn't doing wrong by me or anything. He's a really, really good guy. He packed it up and shipped it. The very next day I sent payment. He's just a really good guy to deal with, and just a good guy all around, honest, and that's hard to find these days. Anyway, the knife is exactly how he described it. He did a nice little video to show the knife in detail for me, and I appreciate that. The action on Hinderers is incredible. If you've never felt it, this is probably the roughest one I've ever felt, and that's because it's brand spanking new. These two are pre-owned. When they're worn in, they have the smoothest action. I'm talking about doesn't ride on bearings or anything. It has nylon washers, or Teflon washers, which are fine. A lot of people have a stigma against Teflon washers. You're not going to damage them. Sure, phosphor bronze are more durable, but you got to ask yourself, how much durability do you really need? Anyway, these Hinderers, as you can see, the blade will literally just drop into the handle, and that's still having absolutely zero blade play. It's amazing how well these are put together, honestly. Ergonomics are spot on for me. When I first felt the Hinderer, the first one I got in was this one. I opened the box, and I'm not saying this because it's a Hinderer. It honestly just fit my hand better than any knife ever has. Excellent ergonomics. And one thing I really love about these knives is the flipper. I love being able to set that flipper on my middle finger and just kind of rest the knife and then grip it like that, and you can get really, really detailed with your cuts. The Spanto is something that people either love it or hate it. A lot of people like the slicers. I've cut with this. The Spanto is not as thick and chunky as people would believe you or have you believe. The Spanto, just to give a comparison, is much thinner at the edge just by feel than something like a 550 or a 551. It is much thinner at the edge than those knives, and subsequently it does cut better in my opinion. The 551s are still great knives, and the 550s, excellent knives, but these cut better to me. But you still have a very, very substantial blade and a very substantial tip. You can pry with these, no problem, honestly, if you wanted to. I've seen people post videos of them prying with their Hinderers and literally just using them as a pry bar, not babying it, and he's loving it. If you break it, he'll fix it, and that's one thing I love about these. Another thing I love is the slotted pivot. I carry around a penny, and if I need to adjust my pivot, I just adjust it quickly with a penny, and that's it. His hardware is fantastic. He makes his own hardware. Everything is just finished really nicely. The specs of the screws are awesome. The drivers that you use in them fit perfectly. Everything is just fitted absolutely perfectly. And that's one thing I absolutely love about these knives. You know when you get one, it's going to be perfect. Kind of like a Chris Reeve. You know it's going to be perfect. I love how you can customize the standoffs, customize the scales. That's another thing. It is incredibly easy to take these knives apart and assemble them. Sebenzas are supposed to be well regarded for their ease of maintenance, taking them apart and putting them back together. These are so much easier than a Sebenza. It's crazy. You literally just loosen these four screws, pop the scale off, you can take the blade out, and that's it. There's nothing you got to wiggle in there. It's just the simplest knife to take apart and put back together that I've ever seen. All the parts fit back together really well. There's no weirdness. You know, sometimes you can take a knife apart and it seems like it just doesn't want to go back together the same way it came apart. These don't do that. It just goes together as easy as it came apart. The lock is something I really like. It uses these thumb studs as a blade stop in the open position, which means there's no stop pin to peen, which means this early lockup will stay early pretty much for the lifetime of the knife. I'd never foresee this knife ever needing work on the lock, honestly, unless you damage it in some way. I just don't see that the lock bar could ever go to the other side. The lock bar is radiused. I mean, not radiused. It's completely ground in a linear fashion, as you can see, just one straight line going across, which is perfect. Rick fits his locks incredibly well. Neither of these three that I have, you can't muscle any vertical play into it. Even on Sebenzas, a lot of the times I can muscle in some play, just get the blade to move in a minute fashion. I can't get any of that out of these. Not to say that these are superior to Chris Reeves. It's just the way it is. People were asking, I said that this is one of my top two knives, and people asked what the other one was, and it's CRK. I think I could do with just Hinderer and CRK and be happy for the rest of my life. I like them that much, and that's why I felt okay getting rid of a lot of my collection to attain these. I just like them that much. I'll never get the slicer, I doubt it, just because of this knife. It's so akin to the Hinderer slicer grind that I think I have my bases covered with a 560 and the 561. Do like the flippers. I'll probably never buy a non-flipper. I just think the classic Hinderer look is the nice sweeping handle with the flipper sticking out. I mean, honestly, in my opinion, Hinderer is what started the flipper craze. The guy that actually invented the flipper is from Alabama. I didn't know that until recently. He's actually from Alabama. He doesn't even make knives anymore, but he invented the flipper, or was the first person to come out with it. So that's pretty cool. The non-flipper is cool. It's just not for me. I like having the option. They're easy to deploy with the thumb studs. Honestly, the thumb studs are fully functional as a deployment method. It's even easier on the Gen 3s and this other Gen 4 with no detent. The thumb studs just really work as a deployment method. So honestly, either one you get, flipper or non-flipper, you'll like, in my opinion. I just prefer the looks of the flipper. It's just classic to me. The clip is only tip up, tip down, right hand. Does have a filler tab, and it uses these Phillips head screws, which I really like. Really like that a lot. They're easy to manipulate, pretty hard to strip out, and the pocket clip is excellent. Excellent pocket clip. I love the shape, love the retention, pretty much love everything about it. The Hinderer disc under here is one right there. The pocket clip covers it either way. This Hinderer disc is actually a lock bar stabilizer. It's not just an overextension prevention thing. It does prevent overextension, but it also prevents vertical flex of the lock bar. When you're gripping the knife, on some knives the lock bar can be pushed in, and that will create wear on the locking face. This actually prevents the lock from being pushed in vertically. So it's a true lock bar stabilizer and not just an over travel disc. Not much else to say about it. One other thing that made me fall in love with these knives is the stone wash. The stone wash is incredible. It's so rough that it will hide anywhere. Honestly, I dug into the titanium on this one. It's going to be really hard to show you just because of how good the stone wash is, but I dug into the titanium right here on accident with a screwdriver. There you can see it. But it just blends in with the stone wash because the stone wash is so good. You could probably use this knife for years and never really be able to tell that it's scratched or dinged or anything. It's amazing. I really like it. Really like the stone wash. I like knives that you can use and still look pretty. See if this one, yeah, this one has the same nice even stone wash on it. Love the Spanto grind. It looks so mean. And it's a good cutter. Surprisingly good cutter. But anyway, this wasn't a review or anything. I'm not going to name it a review. It's just me talking about the knives. People seem to like it, so I'm going to keep on going with it. Something that I'm excited to have, excited to show in the future is it's a Wicked Edge. I suck at this thing right now. So used to the Edge Pro, it's really strange sitting still. I get to sit down while I sharpen now, which is awesome. But it's really strange using the thing, alternating strokes, and it's bizarre. Honestly, it's hard to get used to, but I am going to get used to it, and I think this is what I'm going to do customer knives with from now on, because it does minimize the risk of damaging the knife an immense amount. I mean, I had to do so much prevention to keep your knife from getting scratched before, and I did a good job. I never scratched a customer's knife, but it took a lot of effort to be that way. I would hate to get some $900 Anso custom or a really rare Sebenza and then hand it back to you with a scratch on it. You would have rather had a dull knife than have your knife scratched. So that's why I got a Wicked Edge. It's going to allow me to do more knives quicker without running the risk of scratching it, which is awesome. So anyway, guys, thanks for watching. Let me know what you think about these. These are 3.5 inch, by the way. Forgot to say that. And they're all Duratec 20CV, which is my favorite steel on earth. It's the equivalent to M390, which I think we all know and love. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys, and I will see you next time.